Welcome to the Surviving to Thriving podcast that helps women leaders in nonprofits get out of survival mode and thrive in both leadership and life. I'm your host, leadership development coach Kathy Archer, and I help women leaders enjoy impactful leadership. Do you ever feel inept? Are you afraid that you might look stupid or stumble over your words at a meeting? But have you ever taken training to speak in public? And have you ever had the opportunity to practice speaking in public? Not do it, but practice it and get some feedback at it and grow and develop your skills. Here's the thing. Competent leadership is all about having the skills and using those skills. But there are two problems in nonprofit leadership that impact your level of competence as a leader. First, nonprofit leaders often move up the ranks from frontline without the accompanying training to go with the advancing role. You've seen it a zillion times. We move you up from frontline to supervisor to manager to coordinator to director, but you've never taken the actual training to go with that. The second problem is when you do get some training, because let's be honest, we don't get no training at all. We get some level of training along the way. You think that you have to know it immediately and be able to apply it immediately. And when you don't, when you take that training and you're like, oh, I still don't get it, and this is difficult, and this is tough, you beat yourself up. And that's where we feel inept. That's where impostor syndrome comes in. That's when we start to doubt ourselves, hold ourselves back, limit ourselves, and keep ourselves playing small. But let me give you an example to think about outside of the leadership world. Let's imagine you decide you want to learn how to play guitar or whatever it is that you don't know how to do. So you head on over to Google, you Google it, you find some YouTube videos, and you watch about 5 videos that teach you how to play guitar. Amazing teacher, knows what they're doing, walks you through it step by step. Now, if you picked up a guitar, having never learned to play it before, could you play it? Of course not. You would have to practice, and you would have to practice and practice and practice. And that's the thing that we forget in leadership. We think we should know it, be able to do it, be competent at it the minute we step into the role or the minute we've been given direction or taken the training or read a book for that matter. But that's not how it works. Competence is about learning a skill and then practicing a skill. So those are the two problems. A, we move up the ranks without training, and B, when we do get training, we don't have the opportunity to practice it. Now I want to talk about the 2 questions that I want you to ask yourself so that you can increase your level of competence as a leader and feel more competent as a leader. As we walk through this episode, I want you to know that there is a freebie that goes with this. If you head over to kathyarcher.com/guides, scroll all the way down to number 2, you will find your competence plan. And that's going to walk you through the homework that I'm going to give you at the end of this episode. So keep listening and I'll walk you through all of the stuff you need to learn. And then head on over to, again, kathyarcher.com/guides, scroll down, find number 2, your competence plan. And that's going to walk you through the homework that I'm going to give you at the end of this podcast. I'll also put the link in the show notes for you. I'm going to read you a whole list of skills in a minute. As I'm reading them, I want you to ask yourself 2 questions. First, have I taken or received any training on this? So by training, I mean a course, someone taught you at work, mentored you, you read a book, you attended a webinar, maybe you watched a YouTube video, you listened to a podcast, whatever. Doesn't matter, but have I taken any amount of training on this subject? The second question is, have I had the opportunity to practice this skill? So first question, have I taken any training on this subject? Second question, have I had the opportunity to practice it? Ready? This is a long list, but I want you to think about each of these as I go through it because it's important as a leader to think about the skills you need to be a competent leader. And these are skills that maybe you're not feeling so competent at, Or maybe perhaps you notice one of your direct reports isn't so competent at it. And you could ask yourself these same two questions about them. Have they received any training? Have they had the opportunity to practice? So think about yourself or think about your direct reports as I go through this list. Probably yourself, but up to you. All right. Organizational development, like how organizations work and how they grow and develop. Have you had any training on that? Have you had the opportunity to apply, practice, look through that training and figure it out how it works in your organization? How about how to build a team? And I'm not talking about team building activities. There are a zillion books you can get on team building activities. But actually, how do you build a team? What are the stages teams go through as they develop and grow? And what do you need to do as a leader to impact that cohesiveness and the culture of your team? Again, have you had any training and have you had the opportunity to practice? Proposal writing. And again, I'm not talking about the form to fill out and what date it's due, but what goes into a proposal to make it successful? What about reading financial reports, using Excel, Zoom, or any other technology that you're required to use regularly? How about building an effective team agenda and running an effective team meeting? Have you had any training? Have you had the opportunity to practice? What about how to deal with conflict? Maybe you've taken a few courses on it, but have you had the opportunity to practice it? And by practice it, I mean maybe in not such a difficult situation where you're the boss and you're talking to somebody on your team who's not doing what they're supposed to, and this has become a difficult conversation. Is there an opportunity to practice it outside of that? Have you taken any training on how to deal with your emotions at work? How to manage? Emotional intelligence is one of those things that gets thrown out there. That word is used as something that's important for leaders to do, but have you had any training on it? Do you know what it really is and how to be emotionally intelligent? How about giving an effective performance review? And again, I'm not talking about the form you need to fill out, but how do you make somebody feel motivated, inspired, and supported to grow, develop, and reach their potential? Have you had any training on how to do that? Have you read any books on it? Here's another one. It's really important that leaders are competent at making decisions. But have you ever had any training on how to make decisions? I mean, let's be honest, there are decisions that you have to make that are not easy decisions. How do you decide what to do? Have you had any training? What about delegating? Has anybody told you how to delegate? The components of delegation, what's important to know in delegation, when to delegate, why to delegate? Have you ever learned any of that? How about this one? Have you ever had any training on how to use the company's mission, maybe mission, vision statement, however you want to take this, in your everyday work? Like you have this thing in a binder or written on the wall, but how do you apply that as a leader? Or what do you need to do to lead with integrity on a daily basis? That's crazy when you think about that list. Those are all things we're looking for our leaders to be competent in. But as a leader, how many of those things did you go, whoa, I've never had any training on that, and I certainly haven't given my direct reports training on that? That, again, comes back to that problem. We move up the ranks, but without the training to go with it. And then we think, so if I have taken training on conflict resolution, I've gone to a 3-day course, I've, done it there, but then how do you apply it at work? How do you practice it? Because Lord knows you're not going to come back and just know it automatically. And that's the thing. Think about all of the conferences you've been to, the webinars you've attended, the books you've read, the courses you've taken at college or university. When you came back to work, did you have time to practice that skill, that new knowledge? Did you have time to apply it and fail and figure out how to get back up and do it again? But that's how we learn. Go back to the guitar example. That person who's learning to play guitar is not just going to watch the YouTube videos and then immediately be able to play their favorite song. They're going to practice, they're going to fail, they're going to have to try again and again and again. And this is the important thing to think about with competence, is It's a process. And one of the key things we need to keep in mind with competence is to have a growth mindset. Now, there are two types of mindsets. One's a fixed mindset and one's a growth mindset. You may have heard about this before. If not, check it out. It's really important to be able to cultivate a growth mindset. Why? Because if you don't have a growth mindset, you have a fixed mindset. And a fixed mindset believes that your qualities or your skills are carved in stone. This is what I've got. This is my lot in life. What you see is what you get. These are the cards I've been dealt with. This is how smart I am. This is the education I've had. What you see is what you get. And you don't believe that you can grow or develop or learn anymore. And from there, you just sort of believe, you're like, I'm not good at public speaking. I can't handle conflict. I don't deal well with difficult people. I'm not a financial person. And so you don't even try. But if you cultivate a growth mindset, you believe that your basic qualities and skills are things that you can cultivate through effort and time and hard work. And so rather than giving up and saying, I'm just not the type of person that is good at public speaking, or I'm not the type of person who can deal with the conflict in this group, you go, what if I practiced being a more effective speaker? What if I asked for help to understand the financial reports? What would it take for me to be more courageous in those difficult conversations? And then you figure out how to get there. And you use what's called deliberate practice. You practice outside your comfort zone. Again, back to the guitar player, he's not playing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star for 5 years straight. He's practicing outside his comfort zone. He's learning to do things that he doesn't know how to do so that he can increase his skills. The key word, outside their comfort zone. And this is where we get hung up. We struggle because we wait until we feel confident to try something. And instead, we have to step outside of our comfort zone, things we don't normally do, things we aren't comfortable doing, things we aren't feeling adept at. We need to step outside of that comfort zone with courage and try it. And we need to be willing to fail. And we need to be willing to be vulnerable. And we need to be willing to get back up and try again and again and again. Again, you come back to leaders who know their stuff. They didn't step out of the gate knowing their stuff. It's taken years to get to that level. And that's what I want you to do. I want you to identify an area that you're struggling with as a leader. And I want you to step back and ask yourself a couple questions. And I've got a guide sheet to go with this. So if you want to head over to kathyarcher.com/guides, and then scroll all the way down to number 2, you're going to find your competence plan. And it's going to walk you through this. And basically, you're going to look at what's an area I'm struggling with. And then you're going to ask yourself those 2 questions. Have I had any training on this? And by training, again, I'm not talking, it doesn't have to be a formal course. It could be, but it could be if I watched a webinar, read a book, have I talked to a mentor about this, anything. So have I had any training on this? And then have I had the opportunity to practice this skill? And if not, identify what training you need, where you're going to get it, and then where you're going to practice it. Here's the thing. I will often say that as a leadership development coach, I help women leaders enjoy impactful leadership. And I help them do that with confidence, feeling composed, and ensuring that their integrity is intact. But you're not going to feel confident until you feel competent. You have to know that you have the skill base to do the job you're doing. And if you don't have that skill base, it's time to step back and figure out what the skills are you need to learn so that you can feel more confident and thrive in both leadership and life. Go make the rest of your day awesome, my dear. If you found today's episode helpful, then you are going to love the training library. Many women leaders in nonprofits wish that they had a coach or a mentor to help them, but they don't believe that they or their organization can afford it. Oh, but you can. Inside of the Training Library membership site, you will not only get access to affordable and easily accessible ongoing personal and professional development training, you will also have access to a leadership coach at your fingertips. That way, when you hit those inevitable challenges that leadership will bring your way, you'll have both the resources and the support to navigate your way through them with confidence, composure, and while keeping your integrity intact. To find out more, head to kathyarcher.com/library. If you are enjoying the show, I'd love it if you could leave me a comment or a review on iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Thanks for listening. Go make the rest of your day awesome.